I think I may have just figured something out. So let's hope I did, and let's hope I spliced this together correctly. All right, so what was it? Oh yeah, I'm meditating. So I'm enjoying it incessantly. I really am. It's really nice, and I think that when you hit a certain age, you should just do it. You should just try it. So here is the issue. I've tried throughout my entire life to meditate. I've tried several times, as a matter of fact. Sorry, it's going to be hot until it cools down. So I've tried several times. I did something that I hate to admit, which is I downloaded an app for it. That's what I did. I heard about an app that was really good, and I tried it, and it's working out really well. And I will tell you this, if you're above a certain age, just do it. Just do it. It makes you feel a lot better. I do it first thing in the morning. It makes you feel a lot more prepared for the day ahead. And it also makes you feel like you're treating yourself right. I think that, like, overall, we all have issues with treating ourselves right. And we all have issues with listening to ourselves. And that's a big deal. That is a very large deal. Because you should, it sounds hokey. I'm not saying you should be your own best friend, because that sounds too on the nose. But you should listen to yourself more than you listen to anybody else. Now, and I don't mean it from the aspect of, and you already know this, I don't mean it from the aspect of whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, and you can tell that they're not having a conversation with you, they're just waiting for you to finish your sentence so that they can tell you what they want to tell you. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that. That's no doubt. My hand looks huge right now. Did I get stung by a bee? That is, we've all been in those conversations. Super guilty of it. Done it many times. Continue to do it in my life. Absolutely do. Nobody's going to feel like their stories, nobody's going to feel like somebody else's stories are funnier than theirs. And that's not a narcissistic thing. Your story is what you lived, so that's what you know. You know that. You know your story, you lived it, you see it, you can envision it. When somebody else tells you their story, you can envision it, but you can't really manifest it inside. If that makes any sense whatsoever. You can't really see their story. You can see your story. So there's a lot of times when we are guilty of wanting somebody to finish their sentence so that we can say what we want to say. All right? Now, I don't mean it from that perspective. I mean it more from a perspective of the instinctual dialogue that you should be having with yourself that can be both self-esteem affirming and can be positively self-deprecating. Now, I just made that up, and I'm pretty happy about it because I think it's a great term. All right, positively self-deprecating. That I would think is the realization of the honest self-reflection, realization of your own failings, not to necessarily correct them. Okay, not necessarily to correct them. I hate that my TV keeps losing its signal. I messed with the antenna earlier. But just so you know what your handicaps are, just so you know what your failings are, and just so you know that whenever a situation arises in which your handicap shows, you don't overcompensate for it, and that you're honest not just with yourself but with other people. And I'm not saying you have to be like, hey, I've got a small dick or something like that, I'm just saying that you can socially navigate yourself through the situation without looking like a tool. I think that makes sense. And meditation, I don't know if it helps with that, but I can tell you this. I'm definitely listening to myself a lot more. And it's nice. I have a lot to say to myself. I got a lot of times to pump the brakes. I got a lot of times to put my foot in the gas. It's one or the other. Sometimes I just coast. Not one or the other. Sometimes I just coast. Sometimes it's good to listen to yourself. It is. I'm gonna mess with this antenna real quick. So that, I don't know if that's what it's doing for me, but I hope it is. Hi. Hello, I'm back. I hope it is, because so far I can feel myself listening to myself. And that is nice. That is very, very nice. So try it out. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the app I use, just so you know. It is an app that has a guy named Sam Harris on it, and his voice is phenomenal and really, really good, and it guides you through it. And I think that's what I needed. I think the problem is I needed somebody who could guide me through it. Because I definitely couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't. There was too much noise. But then during the meditation, it's okay to listen to the noise. It's okay to hear the noise. It's okay to... It's a very odd thing. It's very different than what I had fooled my mind into thinking it was. You know what I mean? So try it out. Try it out. It's I think it's healthy. I do it every morning, and I sit in a very uncomfortable position on the floor and try to forget that my knees hurt and my elbows hurt, and I breathe. That's pretty much all it is. You just breathe. And there are times I try to navigate this podcast because I don't want to talk politics, and I don't want to talk current events, and at times I don't really want to talk my political or social opinions. All right, and I do my best to avoid doing that. Oh, firework. Do you think you have an enemy? I think that's a valid question people should ask themselves, especially right now. Do you think you have an enemy? Think about it for a second. Take a second. Do you think you have an enemy? Do you really? I'm going to bet that 100% of the people who watch this don't believe they have an enemy. Fireworks are going off. Fucking Oak Cliff. I think there might be an issue with a minority of the populace. Now, do not read into that, because I don't mean it the way it instantly popped into your head. I don't at all. You think that's what I mean, and that is not what I mean. I can guarantee you with 100% certainty, not what I mean. All right? So I want you to take it as a populist minority. All right? Think that they have an enemy. And they think that there is an Okay. So, first of all, there is. There is an underlying enemy that works against all of us every day that is much larger than we can see. I'm not wearing my tinfoil hat tonight so they can read my thoughts. So that is a little bit of my political opinion. Of course there is. Of course there is. Of course there is a larger entity way, way behind the scenes that I will never see, you will never see. We will never reach that pinnacle in which we see it. But I'm willing to bet 100% of the people who watch this agree with that also. Okay? So of course that's there. Okay? And of course there is that enemy. But is there really an enemy? Do you really have an enemy? Do you? In daily life, do you really have an enemy? In yearly life, do you really have an enemy? Enemy is a weird word. I just realized that. Enemy. In the decades you've lived, do you really have an enemy? I think that's a very valid question. I already know how I'll answer it, and I already know how probably everybody here would answer that in the way it's meant. I like to feel, and I think that I can feel that 90% of Earth's population would have the exact same answer. You know, do you really have an enemy? How do we expect to continue the upward momentum of our evolution through life, whether you believe in Jesus or whether you believe in Buddha or whether you just believe in humans or whatever you believe in? You do believe that there is a constant striving for learning and enjoying and savoring and feeling satisfied at times in what you do and where you are and how life goes. No matter what you believe religiously or socially, I know those things are common. Those things are common, man. And how do we expect to do this? How do we expect to get through this race making people feel like we have an enemy when we already know the answer to it? We already know the answer to it. There are different quotes in life that are odd because they fit certain times in your life. A really good quote I loved for a very long time: "A man who will stand for nothing will fall for anything." That was Malcolm X. There was a time when I lived very harshly by that credo. And as I've gotten older, I've realized I don't have to stand for everything. We don't have to stand for everything. We really don't. It gets really, really tiring. And it will wear you out to stand for everything. Like, it'll get fucking exhausting to stand for everything. To be idealistic about everything. To believe that everything is a fight or a battle or a war or something like that. It's gotta be fucking tiring. Shit, I can't even go through fucking work trying to get my fucking email to work. And yet you want me to stand for fucking everything? Like, fuck off. Like, that sucks. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. And as you get older and I maintain my sense of idealism. I don't want anybody to think I lose my idealism, because I haven't lost my idealism. But in gaining my sense of worth, I think it's fair to say, in life, I don't have an enemy. I don't have an enemy, and I don't feel like I should. Now, is that going to scream some kind of weird, like, lower middle class privilege? Is that going to scream some, oh, well, you must live a fairly cushy life now, blah, blah, blah? No, not at fucking all. I'm a poor dick motherfucker. Like, I'm fucking poor. I fucking struggle. I fucking work. I'm fucking tired all the time. No, I am not living a cushy, privileged life in any fucking way, shape. Not just monetarily, not just socially, not just interpersonally and intrapersonally, I'm not living a cushy life. There is zero lifestyle privilege going on in my life. I just don't need to stand for everything. It's exhausting. It's tiring. It really does feel like it keeps some people from enjoying the life that is out here for us. Does that make sense? Okay, hold on one second. Boy, I'm walking away from this camera a lot tonight, ain't I? Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on. All right, so I know this is a little bit of a rant. I am very aware that this is a little bit of a social rant. All right, I know it is. All right, and I didn't know how to avoid it much longer, and I have a feeling that a lot of y'all knew I was coming down to this rant eventually. All right, because you could see it. You could see it when I tell you to stay sane and stay safe. When I tell you the world is not on fire. When I tell you I'm glad you made it to Wednesday. Glad you made it to Saturday. It's nice to see you. Care for you. I hope you're doing well. I know you knew I was going to hit somewhere in the horseshoe area. By horseshoe, I mean throwing horseshoes, not a horseshoe. Area of this socially. Also, by the way, it is 9:16, and there's an ice cream man driving down the street right now. Who the fuck is buying ice cream from the ice cream man at 9:16? By the way, during a coronavirus. Who the fuck knows if it's real? I don't know. I'm not pretending to know. It just seems odd. So I know everybody, I could feel, nobody really hardly comments on me doing this. But for some reason, when I talk to people about it, and they say, oh yeah, that was a good one, oh, that was funny, or sometimes I can feel what they're aiming towards, and I could be completely wrong, but I do have a really good feeling that a lot of y'all knew I was going to kind of head in this direction eventually. And so I wanted to talk about this without being so specific. I wanted to be a good amount of vague, in which you knew where I stand and you know how I feel about you. I want you to know how I feel about you. I want you to know that even though I do this podcast for myself and I could give a holy fuck what you think about it, I hope that you would understand that I still want to be heard. And I'm still trying to put this out here. I started this, months ago now, when I felt like it was a good way to stay connected with people. And as people started dropping off of it, and people weren't watching as much, and some people say, oh, I've got to catch up, and they did or they didn't or whatever, I still love doing it. And I love being on here twice a week and trying to express some kind of vague feeling. Okay, anybody who's known me my entire life, this is exactly how I talk. This is exactly how I've talked my entire life. I never really get to the point. I always kind of tiptoe around it. I skirt a little bit. I like to tap dance right around it to where you know where I'm coming from, but you're not sure where I'm coming from. I've always done that. So this is no different. If you don't know me and haven't known me since childhood, and you're watching this as a stranger who may have found it on Snapchat or whatever, you'll know that this is how I've always talked. I've talked like this my entire life. I don't know if it's driven people nuts. I feel like it hasn't, but I know it drives my mom and dad nuts. My mom won't even watch anymore because she says I take way too long to get to my point. And this is a very good point. This is a very good. This is a very a prime example. This conversation I'm having with you of why my mother does not watch, because I won't get to the fucking point. And the point is this: I don't have an enemy, and you don't have a fucking enemy. And I know this. I know you don't have a fucking enemy. You know why? Because you're sitting there watching fucking YouTube. That's why. Because if you had an enemy, and you always felt like you had an enemy, you definitely wouldn't be sitting here watching YouTube. You'd be doing either some stress or anxiety fucking activity to show everybody that you had an enemy, or you'd be walking back and forth like a fucking meth addict in the 80s. I think meth was around the 80s. I believe it was. Pacing back and forth in your apartment, probably talking to yourself and sketching on a notebook something that you show your friends, and they just kind of nod and go, yeah. And then when you leave, they go, I think that motherfucker's gone crazy. I think that dude went crazy. Like, should we still hang out with him? Like, is anybody else here worried about the shit he just showed us in his notebook? And we all know that person. So don't act like you do, because we all know that person. So that's what I wanted to say. That's my point. My point is there is not an enemy. Okay? Get up. The world is not on fire. You have no fucking enemy. Stop being a crazy person that's showing people your weird fucking notebook sketches where you're connecting, I don't know, the Bilderbergs to the release of Furbies to whatever, all right? So, ta-da! There you go. All right, so I had to get that off my chest. I really did. It's been bugging me for a few podcasts now, and I'm glad I said it. I'm glad I said it. And I really, honestly, even though I said it, you're going to look back on this and go, that motherfucker didn't say shit. Like, he really didn't say anything. Like, I don't even know what he said. And I don't blame you, because I'm starting to look back on it and think back on it right now. And I look at that fly, and I don't know what the fuck I said either. So that being said, I want to tell you a couple things I'm watching on TV and on the movies before I leave you that you should watch. Ford v Ferrari. Watched it last night. Really railed against watching it. Did not want to watch it. We already know I'm that kind of person where if everybody tells you something's good, I don't believe you. Or I do believe you, I just don't want to seem like I like the things that you like. Ford v Ferrari was really, really good. And here's the deal. I had a serious problem with Matt Damon being Carroll Shelby. But then, when I saw him on screen, he even looks like Carroll Shelby. It was really, really cool. He does a very good job. And, of course, Christian Bale. What can he do? What can't Christian Bale do? I don't know what he can do. I don't know what he can't do. He can do everything. There should be a movie with nothing but Christian Bale playing every fucking role, and he'd fucking kill it. Like he does. He's just phenomenal. He's just phenomenal. So, Ford v Ferrari is really, really good. The Perry Mason reboot on HBO with Jonathan Rhys. Is that his name? I think that's his name. RHYS or something like that. Really good. He was in The Americans with his wife, Felicity. And you should watch the new Perry Mason. John Lithgow was in it. He is really, really good. And they do these really cool backstories that involve like old... They do these stories that resemble stories of the past in the 40s and 50s. And they slightly change the names. The very first episode... there's a nod to the story of Fatty Arbuckle. If you do not know the story of Fatty Arbuckle, you must read about it. It might be the very first case of Hollywood executives framing an actor because of contract negotiations. Not joking there, by the way. And yes, his name was Fatty Arbuckle. It's a great story. And they do a little nod to it. Really, really cool. Highly suggested, Perry Mason, and it's based actually on the books, which is really, really neat. I like that they did that they based it on the books. That's what I'm watching. What else? I'm trying to stick with watching like fun stuff or thought-provoking stuff. There is a really good documentary right now on HBO about a lawyer named Roy Cohn. Okay? Roy, I know I did that a lot during this podcast. I'm going to figure this out. Okay? I'm going to figure this out. I promise you. So it's not so hot, it's not so sweaty, and I'm not doing that. I promise. I'm going to figure it out. I'm starting to figure things out. I don't know if you noticed, but things are changing. We got the Dick Van Dyke Show playing. Boy, Laura's good looking. Jesus Christ. She just licked her lips, and she's in black and white. And seriously, fucking turned me on. Jesus Christ, she's good looking. My Lord. Oh, that's Mary Tyler Moore, right? Is that who plays that? God, she's good looking. Okay, so I'm going to figure this out. There's a really good documentary on HBO about Roy Cohn. Highly, highly, highly suggested. Roy Cohn became famous during the Rosenberg trial. He was the prosecuting lawyer in the Rosenberg trial. Julian and Ethel Rosenberg, of course, were executed for espionage. There have been very few people in the history of the United States who have been killed for espionage or treason, or so they say. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. One was Franco and Vanzetti, the famous anarchists during the Haymarket riots. Highly suggest you learn about that. But another, which was a husband and wife, Ethel and Julian Rosenberg, who supposedly stole atomic secrets and sold it to the Russians. He was the prosecuting lawyer that sent them to death, where there is a very big possibility. He was very unapologetic, but there has always been a very huge possibility that they were innocent. He went on to he was a mob lawyer. I believe he defended John Gotti. He rose through the political process. He never wanted to be. They say a really good sentence there where he never wanted to be the guy in the chair. He always wanted to be the guy in the chair next to the guy in the chair. Does that make sense politically? And there's a twist. There's a really good twist, and I don't want to give it away. God, I don't want to give it away, and I'm trying to figure out how can I tell you because Roy Cohn was very anti-gay. He was very anti-communist, of course, very anti-anarchist, very anti-democrat. He wasn't just Republican. He was like anti-democrat. And oh God, there's such a good twist. Okay, all right. If you know anything about the rumors about J. Edgar Hoover, the story of Roy Cohn is very similar. Ha! I did it. All right, very good. So, you really should check that out. It's extremely interesting. Very, very interesting. And then last but not least, Yukon Vet on Disney Plus. Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever met a greater woman on TV in my entire life. Yukon Vet is great. Watch it. Watch it. It's so great. She's so fantastic. And the way she talks to the animals and talks to the people about their animals, it's so great. It's so heartwarming. So I highly, highly suggest it. Besides that, I think that it's time to end it because I think I've sweated enough. I think you've seen that fly land on my head enough, which I know is super fucking gross. I'm going to figure this out. It won't be as hot. There'll be no flies in here. It's taking me time, all right? Fucking give me a break. So, June 24th, thank you for making it to the Wednesday podcast of Brushing Teeth with Robert. Please subscribe. Subscribe if you like it. Do the alerts if you really like it. Or fuck it. If you fucking hate it, subscribe. Please, just help me out here. Saturday Bill Live Show. Please, if you want to do a call-in, nobody has attempted to yet. I think my son is the only one who's done a call-in. But if you want to do a call-in, feel free. Feel free. If you don't know my number, just message me or leave a comment, and I'll find you. And I will give you my number. And you can call during the live show. And I really don't care what you say. It could be like an access show where you say, lick my balls, and then I hang up on you. I don't care. It's fine. Just calling in would be fun. So that is an open invitation to many of y'all. And especially, by the way, if you're somebody I don't know and I've never met, please entertain calling in. That would be fun. I would like that, all right? So besides that, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. Welcome. Thank you for being here for Brush Teeth with Robert. June 24th. We made it halfway through the week. We're almost there. Okay? Almost there. You did great. Stay safe. Stay sane. Fuck. I just fucking realized something. I do have an enemy. Logan, could you please pay me back some of the money you owe me? Alright, thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying it. Alright? Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. We'll get through this. No le den de pistear, porque no para, no puede, y es mejor que lo lleven a costa. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. Please, next time, brush your teeth with Robert. Mwah!